All right. All right, guys. Today we're going to talk about how to show a property, which is basically how to present a property to a tenant or someone that's looking to buy the property. So the first question is, what is the purpose of showing a piece of real estate in our business? Any ideas?
To sell or lease.
To sell it or to lease it. That's the goal. When you show up to a property and you meet someone there, your goal is either to sell them the property or lease them the property. That's what you're there to do. And you need to have that in mind when you show up. That's the whole reason you're there. So how do we best convince a prospect to buy or lease a property? What things can we do? So the first step is we got to ask some strategic questions. All right? We can't sell anyone anything by talking about this property is so great, this property is this, and this property is that, until we understand what their requirement is, what's driving their requirement, what's influencing their decisions. And then once we know where they're at and what they're trying to accomplish and what they need, then we have the ability to reconcile those needs with what we have and figure out where the connections are, and then we can sell because we actually have information. Does that make sense? All right. So what questions do we ask? I ask a ton of questions in my showings, and I try to make it as conversational as I possibly can. All right. So let's see here. So I usually start out with something like this. So that I can best direct this tour today, can you please tell me a little bit about your company and a little bit about what this requirement is all about today? Can you please tell me a little bit about your company? What does that do? Gets me the name of the company, right? What they do, as much information as they're willing to provide. Now I have a little bit of information, right? And tell me a little bit about your requirement. I'm in the market for some space. I need 5,000 square feet, blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is, now they are qualifying what their requirement is. I'm hearing it directly from them. Does that make sense? Now I have a little bit of information. And we'll talk in a little bit about what we do with this information. So, for certain, you guys should be taking notes through this entire process. You should have a notebook with a pen when you show up to a showing, and you should be writing down the company's name is XYZ Partners Incorporated. Their present address is over here. Their requirement is 4,550 square feet. Their timing is X, right? And you're taking all these notes down. You're taking them down for two reasons. One, so you can look back at them during the tour if you forget something. But two, most importantly, you can bring that back and convey that to the team and convey that to the client through Slack, and you can actually share real information with people, right? Meaningful information. So, next question I ask usually is, this requirement that you have, is it driven by an expansion? Or is this a relocation? Or is this a startup venture? Now, what do you think the implication of those questions is? Is this an expansion? Is this a relocation? Or is this a startup venture? John?
Their trajectory. Are we dealing with someone who's struggling and going down and get a smaller space, someone who's going up, someone who's the risk involved, right? Is it a startup versus an established place growing versus
100%. Yep. What else?
Just the reasoning of why they're looking at the space, and then again to hear where they're at, where their company is at, and why they're looking at space in the first place.
Exactly. We're expanding. We're expanding in a huge way. We're opening up 7 offices across Massachusetts this year. Do you think that's important information for you to know? Seriously, do you think it is? 100%. Or we're relocating. What's your next question if they say they're relocating? From where?
Yeah.
Where are you today? Oh, I'm actually the next building over, up on the 6th floor. Then there's a next question. Oh, when does your lease expire? Right? What's the timing of this requirement? Right? One question flows into another question, flows into another question. Why is asking someone about their timing important before you show them space, do you think?
Because space that's not available today could possibly be available later.
That's exactly right. And what if the client's requirement is, I need to be in space on May 1st, and today is April 12th, and the space you were going to show them is occupied by another company?
Yep.
Does it make sense to show them that space? Absolutely not. You're wasting your time and you're wasting their time. On the flip side, if their requirement is for May of next year, a year out from now, how incentivized do you think a landlord is going to be today to lock up an empty piece of space to lease it to this company a year from now? Maybe, maybe not. But all these things come into play in the overall desirability of the tenant for the space and the space for the tenant. And you need to know these things so you can start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And is this a right fit or is this a wrong fit tenant for this particular space? All right? Let's see. If this is an expansion, what's driving the need for this expansion? Is it new business? Is it that you've acquired another office and you're consolidating? Is this requirement dependent upon you landing a contract with another company? And if you land the contract, you need the space. And if you don't land the contract, you don't need the space. That happens all the time in commercial real estate. We want to understand the driving factors behind this need. We talked about if it's a lease, if you're relocating, what's your current expiration date? If it's just an expansion, what's your target occupancy date? Right? Critical piece of information. When do you want to be in? When do you need to be in? How long of a lease term will you consider? I don't rip this question out all the time, but I do use it from time to time. And that is, if you had to pick 3 things that are the most important criteria for your selection of this space, what would those 3 things be? And what I love about that question, if they'll answer it, is they start giving you critical insight into what's motivating their decision making. I want a space that's move-in condition. I want a space that is going to be under my budget of $20 a square foot. And I want a space that's going to allow me flexibility to grow during the term. If you get a tenant to tell you that, right? If you do that, and then you go up to the space and you say, the space is almost move-in condition. There's adjacent space on the floor. We can give you expansion capability. And I do think this landlord can do a deal at under $20 a square foot. Are you interested in seeing a proposal from us? What do you think their answer is going to be? Hell yes, right? Now you're selling. See what you're doing? You're selling. You understand their decision-making criteria. You understand what's motivating them. You understand what is incentivizing them. And then you are structuring your pitch. You're moving it. It's a fluid pitch every single time, tailored to that specific company that you're talking to, that you're meeting with that day. It's not the same canned pitch over and over and over again. You've got to customize these. There's an old expression in sales, guys. Telling isn't selling. Telling is not selling. Telling is telling. These are the facts. This is how much space we have. This is the landlord. This is the parking over here. That's telling. That is not selling at all. That's C-minus level work. You want to be selling. And the only way you can really sell is if you know what's motivating and inspiring and moving the decision of the group you're talking to. That's it. So you have to ask questions. You lead with questions, and then you get into your pitch. Last question. Is there anything else you want to share or you think is important to share before I start my presentation? Yeah. You should know that the company filed bankruptcy 3 years ago. Oh, okay. That's important, right? It's going to have an impact. Something you might want to disclose to the landlord before you get 6 weeks down the line on letter of intent and drafting a lease, and then you find out about that, right? Let them voluntarily share information you may not think to ask. You're doing right by your client by doing that, and you're giving yourself the highest probability of making a deal, because the more information you know, the less risk and contingent liability is hanging out there. Okay? All right. Next step. Presentation, presentation, presentation. It's my favorite word in real estate. Favorite word in life. It's presentation. All right? When you show up at a showing, you're representing Kelleher and Sadowski, and you're representing the Kelleher and Sadowski brand. You're also representing your own brand. It's the Brian Johnson brand and the John Snyder brand and the Tyler Shane brand and the Don Mancini brand. So the way you present yourself, the way you present the company, is going to leave whoever is there with an impression. And that impression is either going to be positive or negative or neutral. Negative and neutral are both bad. If they don't remember you after the showing, that's a bad thing. Worse, if they just think that you're inept or awful or whatever, that's the absolute worst case scenario. You want to leave them walking away saying, wow, that guy was impressive. Wow, this company is on their game. They were professional, they were on time, they knew everything there was to know about the building and the property. They asked me intriguing questions. They made sure they didn't show me spaces that didn't make any sense. They were full-on professional. Awesome experience. That's presentation. So, what goes into presentation? How are you dressed? What do you look like? You guys know I dress every day. Style, sport jacket, beard is trimmed, hair is done. I am professional. When I show up, I have a certain image I'm looking to project, and I project it at every single showing, at every single meeting. Are you smiling? Are you friendly? Are you inviting? Or are you very, hi, I'm Tyler. Hi, I'm Brian. It's nice to meet you today. Can I ask you just a couple questions about, that's not a presentation, all right? It's hi, Don Mancini. How are you today? Thank you so much for coming out. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions before we get started on the tour today. Boom, 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 and you get right into it, right? Big smile, big welcoming personality. They're like, this guy's cool. This guy's at ease. I feel at ease now. Yeah, let's get into this. What do you want to know? And you start getting into a rapport. You start building a relationship. Starts with a smile. It starts with your presentation. It starts with showing up on time. It starts with being prepared. All of those things go into making a great impression and a great presentation. And think about what comes out of this. What's our goal? Sell or lease them a property. If you do a good job, you could sell or lease them that property. What do you think about that? It's great, right? That's a worthy result. It's a worthy goal. We should be focused on that. It's the second thing that could come out of it. Second thing is they're unrepresented. And you impress them so much, they say, you know what? This space doesn't really work, but do you have anything else in the market? I like the way you do business. I like how you handle yourself. You seem knowledgeable. Is there anything else I should be looking at? Now, what did you just do? You converted that opportunity into possibly a tenant rep or buyer rep assignment because of your presentation, because of your salesmanship, because of your capability. Is that a decent result? 100%. Absolutely. What's the third possible thing that could happen? Third possible thing is they go back and they say, you're not going to believe this. I had a great presentation today. Not going to lease any space there. But this guy, Brian Johnson over at Kelleher and Sadowski, he really impressed me. If you ever need commercial real estate, I would give you Brian Johnson's name. Definitely on the ball, knew what he was talking about, friendly, great guy. What's that worth? It's worth a lot, right? It's worth a hell of a lot. Those are the things you got to be thinking about, is the ripple effect of what you're doing. We have our primary goal, and then we have all these other positive things that can happen if we just do the right things, if we put ourselves in the right position to succeed. All right? Did you arrive on time? Hugely important. Do not be late for showings. Be early. Be early. Don't keep people waiting. It's rude, it's unprofessional, and you get started off on the wrong foot. You show them that you're not valuing their time. And let me tell you, in business, their time is the most valuable thing to them. That's what it is. Don't do that. Don't send that message. Did you arrive early? Did you open the space, unlock it prior to the showing? Did you turn the lights on? So there's two different ways you walk into a building. You go in and it's completely dark. And you take your key and you open the door and you walk in with them to a dark space and you flip the lights on. That's one way to present a space. How does that feel to you from a presentation perspective? Pretty shitty, right? Would you like to walk into our office space and all the lights are off? Flip them on. Or two, you've already done the work ahead of time. You got there early, you open the door, it's ajar, you went in, you flipped all the lights on, you flipped all the office lights on, you picked up any paper clips that were on the floor to make it look great. Everything is just the way it should be, and then you go out to meet them so that when they get there, you finish your questions, you start your presentation, you walk in, and you're presenting the space a certain way. The best possible way the space can present, that's how you want to present it every single time. Put a little forethought into it. Did you call the owner to make sure that the space was neat and clean and presentable? These are important things. If the space is nasty and you show it and it's nasty, pick up the phone, call the owner and say, the space is nasty, you got to clean the space out. It shows awful. There's dirt on the floors, there's boxes in here, clean it out, make it look presentable. That's your job. Call your client and say, this is what you need to do if you want to have the best chance of me selling or leasing your property for you. You need to do these things. Don't be afraid. Give them positive feedback. Give them suggestions that can help them. That's what they've hired you for. You're not there just to bring in a tenant. You're there to guide them through the process. You're not there just to bring in a buyer. You're there to guide them through the whole process. Give them every advantage you possibly can. Here's another thing. Downtown Worcester, parking is very tight. If you can, strategically schedule the showing at a time when parking is going to be most readily available. Right? Think about that at your particular property. When is parking most readily available? When is there the least amount of traffic, if that's an issue, right? If you're showing a property on a busy street, Route 20, and it's impossible to go out and take a left because of traffic, what's a slow volume time of day for traffic? Show the property then. Don't let that issue be an issue at the time you show the property. Be strategic in how you're thinking about it. You know what, I'm not available at that time, but I can do it at this time. Would that work for you? Sure, I can do that. Well, you're just giving yourself a competitive advantage because the property is going to show better at that time. The tenant buyer is going to have a better experience seeing the property at that time. Give yourself every advantage you can. All right. Preparation, preparation, preparation. You must prepare. Prepare for every showing you have. You need to educate yourself on the basic necessary information that any buyer or any tenant is going to ask. And you need to anticipate these questions, and you need to know them front and back, up and down, in and out, left to right, every which way you can. You must be the walking expert on the particular property that you are showing. And if you don't know the answers prior to, you need to get the answers prior to. That's it. This is non-negotiable. You must know everything. So let's go through office questions that every tenant is going to ask, or every tenant should be asking you. Okay, number one, what is the usable versus the rentable square footage of this space? Usable versus rentable square footage. You must know that. What is the total building size? If you're showing them a 4,000 foot space inside of a 244,000 foot building, they're going to want to know that for sure. What's the total vacancy rate or occupancy rate of this property? Tenants want to know, how full is the building or how empty is it? How is this building doing? Is it successful? Is it not successful? You need to know. How much parking is there? Where is it located? And how much does it cost? Some of these buildings, the garages associated with them have hours of operation where they're closed. It's important to know. What are the hours of operation of this parking garage? Well, the 446 Main Street parking garage is open Monday through Saturday from 5 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. Sunday it's closed. If you end up parking there on a Friday night and you go out somewhere and you come back at 11:15 to get your car, you're not getting your car. You're locked out of the parking garage. There is no way to access it. Your car is there till 5 o'clock the next morning. That's when you can get it. It's important for a tenant to know, right? Oh, you guys work Sundays? Yeah, there's no parking in the garage on Sundays. It's just shut down. It's important for a tenant to know. Who are the other tenants in the building, and what businesses are they, what industries are they involved in? It's something every tenant asks, guys. Who else is in this building? They want to know. Is there a competitor? Is there someone that might be a friendly type use where they can refer business back and forth to each other? All right. Is there someone that they know in the building? They can talk to them. They like to know this. What are the amenities of the property? Is there on-site property management? Is there on-site food service? Does the landlord provide cleaning? If so, what days? And what's the incremental cost? How does space renovations work? If I want this space renovated, I need new paint, new carpet, I need some new walls built. How does that process work? Do I build it out? Does the landlord build it out? Does he pay for it? Do I pay for it? How does that all work? They want to know. You need to have the answer. This is how it works here. And it's going to vary property to property to property. Who designs the space? The tenant wants to make some adjustments. Do they have to hire their own architect? Or does the landlord provide an initial test fit, an initial architectural plan to help accommodate the tenant? In many office buildings, the landlord will pay for an initial design of the tenant space. That's valuable, right? You want to know that. You want to sell that. No, actually, we'll take care of that for you. Let's sit down, let's talk about your space needs, and we'll get you a plan. Huge value add service. How about this? Who is the landlord? What's the entity? What's their background? Are they local? Are they on site? What are the properties do they own? Whenever I show a building, I always talk about, if it's for lease, I always talk about the landlord. You understand, they're entering into a 3, 5, 7, 10-year long contract with the landlord. You think they should know who the landlord is, what they're about? Yeah. Yeah, they're essentially getting married. It's very important. This is who the landlord is. This is who owns the property. This is who I represent. Get right into it. Give them that information. Be professional. How long of a lease is the landlord demanding? This landlord's really looking for 5-year leases here. Just want to put that out up front. Right? This landlord will consider year-to-year tenants. This landlord will consider anything, month to month, up to 10 years. Whatever works for you. We're wide open. All right? It's important to put that out there. Do you have other prospects for the space? Are there competing tenants for it? If so, you're not a shady used car dealer by putting it out there. Say, look, I just want to let you know, I've shown this space twice this week. We're expecting a letter of intent to come in. I want to put that out there to you. It's no pressure, but I want to make sure you have all the best information as you go through this process to make the best decision that you can. Right? Well, that does 2 things. 1, tells the tenant that the space is in demand. 2, tells the tenant it's a competitive situation. They're going to need to be competitive. And 3, it forces them to maybe move a little bit quicker than they thought they needed to move. All of which work in your favor if you have that particular situation. And more importantly, works in your client's favor. That's who this is all about at the end of the day. Right? Share that information. Can the space be subdivided? This is a 10,000 square foot piece of space. Can it be subdivided to a smaller piece of space? If so, what size can you subdivide it down to? Important information to know. The question's going to come up. Geez, I love this space, but it's a little big. Can you subdivide it? I don't know. Let me get back to you. That's not okay. No, going in. You know what? It's a really good question. Unfortunately, this space, the way that it's configured with fire egresses and whatnot, we just can't subdivide this space. I'm sorry. What you see is what it is. Or, yes, as a matter of fact, we've looked into this proactively, and we can subdivide this space down to 2,200 feet on one side and 2,700 feet on the other side. This would be the general configuration. Would one of those sizes work for you? Right? Now you're getting into a meaningful dialogue. You're prepared. You're prepared for the question, and you're prepared to answer it accurately and effectively. You're not wasting their time. You're not wasting your time. All right? Can the space be expanded? Is there contiguous space on the floor or in the building if I need more space than what your suite size is? Let's see here. Be prepared. Be prepared. You must study for each property that you are going to show. And you need to know all of this information. And I mean study, like a test, like a final exam. You need to know everything before you go out and you show it. And the beauty with doing this, guys, is once you study it and you know it, and as you show it, it literally becomes second nature. First time you show it, you know all the information. By the 5th time you show the space, you're not even thinking. You're like, oh yeah, it's this, it's that, yeah, this, boom, 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 and it's just rolling off of your tongue. And those showings, you don't have to prepare nearly as much because you've already done all the preparation. Now you just know it, right? Now you just know it. And that's the best place to be. But you must study, you must come prepared. All right, sell, sell, sell. We're nearing the end here. Sell, sell, sell. Now that you've asked the questions, you understand what's driving the requirement, and you know their must-haves, you're ready to sell. Highlight where your space or your building or your property meets their specific criteria. They told you they need 7 private offices. Your space has 7 private offices. What do you say?
We have 7 private offices.
Guess what? We have 7 private offices. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You told me you needed 7 private offices, right, Brian? Yeah, 7 private offices. How do you like that? I love it. It's great, right? Reinforce it. Don't just let them assume the obvious. Go out there and state it. You said you wanted to be on an upper floor with a good view, right? Yeah. Well, we'll check this view out. Look at this. We're up on the 11th floor. We're looking out over City Hall. You see up there, there's Holy Cross College up on the hill. Beautiful view. Sell it. Sell it. You know what they want. Sell it. Do things all the time. Bring them down to the parking garage. Save that for last. You said you needed a lot of parking, right? Yeah. How does 750 covered parking spaces sound to you? Walk into the garage. Covered. With a catwalk over. Does this sound good to you? Don, this is great. How much is parking here? It's included. I'll get it included in the rent for you. I am selling them. Selling, selling, selling. I'm not telling anything. I am selling them. Every single time. Find out what they want, see where it matches up with the strengths of your property, and then sell the ever-living shit out of it. That's your job. That is how you move space. That's how you motivate people. That's how you close people. Sell. It's a sales job. All right. Let's see here. If you have a great quality building and you have a lousy space, an unrenovated space in a nice building, think about going into another tenant space, which you've already set up because you're prepared prior to the showing, a space that's fully renovated and nice, and start the tour off there. The space I'm going to show you isn't renovated. It needs a complete rehab. Let me show you another space in the building that's more indicative of the quality of space in this property, just so you can get a sense of what this space could look like and will look like when we deliver it to you. Now, what are you doing? You're setting their expectations. They walk into this really beautiful space. They see a beautiful ceiling, nice light fixtures, crisp carpet, freshly painted, and they're just super impressed. Now you bring them upstairs or across the floor, whatever, to the empty space that doesn't present so well. Their first impression walking in is going to be, right? But now that they've seen that nice space, they can begin to visualize what this space could look like, how nice it could be, how it could fit their criteria. Set the stage for success. Give them the vision of what their space could look like. In this building here, where we have 120 Front Street, where we have a whole lot of unrenovated, old, third-generation space, we start every single tour right here in our offices. This is the nicest space in the city of Worcester. I want to rent space in this building. I show them the nicest space in the building. And then from here, once they know what can be done and what this landlord is capable of, then we go into the vacant catacombs of this building. That's how we show space here. That is standard operating procedure because this is a sales job and we are selling. All right, think about it. If there is a tenant in the building that you're friendly with that doesn't mind talking to prospects, who loves the building, and you know they love the building, have them available. Hey, by the way, you seem like you really like this property. Would you like to take 2 minutes and talk to an existing tenant just to see what they think about this property or this landlord? Yeah, I've got 2 minutes. Set it up. Hey, what do you think about this property? Oh, I love it here. I've been here for 5 years. The landlord is great. They're always responsive. The parking situation here is fantastic. I just can't recommend this building highly enough. Coming from another tenant in the building, what do you think that does to your chance of getting that tenant to consider locating at that property? It increases it dramatically. You are setting the stage for success. You are selling a predictable path that leads to a proven result. Selling. Okay, this isn't luck. Don't let the property try to sell itself. You need to sell the property, all right? The property is just a static piece of bricks and mortar and steel. That's all it is. It will not sell itself. You need to sell the property. That's what you're here for. All right. Guys, bring all the last two things. Bring all the necessary materials, all right? Bring the brochures. Bring extra brochures, all right? You never know who's going to show up. Make sure you have enough for everybody. Bring the floor plans of the spaces you intend to show. They're going to want to know. You walk through a space, I'm kind of getting confused here. So this, you go, let me show you on the plan, right? This is what it is. Can the space be subdivided? Yes, let me show you on the plan. Much easier for people spatially to look at a plan and see where a space can be subdivided than to walk through a space and say, yeah, so you could build a wall here, then it's going to jog over there. It becomes very hard to, inside your brain, visually understand how that's going to lay out. Seeing it on a piece of paper, on a plan, so much more efficient, all right? Bring the necessary materials. If you know the name of the company prior to the showing, do a Google search on them, okay? Learn about who the company is. Learn about who the owner is, or if they're public or private, and what their industry is, and what are the locations they have. And be intelligent. Say, hey, you know, pleasure to meet you. And instead of the first question saying, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and about your requirement, you can say, geez, I looked at you guys online. I see you're an incredibly successful insurance company. I mean, congratulations. You guys have been around since 1972. Wow, that's really something. It's great to finally meet you guys. Can you tell me a little bit about what's driving this requirement? They're going to take a step back and be like, this guy knows about us already? Like, he took the time to understand who we are and what we're all about? Awesome presentation, right? That's being prepared. That's delivering a service that goes above and beyond. That's the difference between a average mediocre broker and a power broker. Really is. How prepared are you? How much effort are you willing to put into this to make yourself present in the best possible light and make the company present in the best possible light? If strategically beneficial, and this probably wouldn't be a first showing, but if strategically beneficial, you get a second showing, and you know the company was concerned about renovations at the property. For example, I'm not sure we can actually really do what we want to do here. Think about bringing an architect and/or a contractor to the meeting who represents the property owner. Say, you know, today, I know you had some questions about the construction and the renovations here. I thought I'd bring our team in today to meet with you so that we had the right people, the professionals here, that can help you work through your questions to see if there's an answer. Right? How do you think that comes across to them? Proactively. Yeah, I thought I'd bring my team. I want to make sure you're taken care of. We want to get the right answers. I'm not the right guy, so I brought in the right people. Powerful, right? Powerful stuff. If the landlord should be there, if you think that the landlord sells him or herself really well, bring the landlord in for a showing, even a first showing. If it's a big deal, the landlord really wants to make the deal, and the landlord isn't going to be an impediment to the presentation of the property, bring the landlord in. hey guys, I got some great news. Please meet my client. He owns the property. He wanted to be here for this showing to meet you. Client, tenant, tenant, client, make the introduction. Let them have a little chit chat, right? That stuff goes a long way. They get to put a face to who the property owner is. If they like them, you enhance your chances, right, of making a deal. Little things. And here's one I don't think many people do at all, and they really should, is follow up with an email the same day to the prospect you showed the building to, and say, I just want to thank you for taking the time to come see the property today. I really enjoyed meeting you and hearing, learning more about your company. It seems to me like the space or the building can be a great fit for your requirement. I'd love to know from you what I can do for next steps to help move this process down the road. And if you'd like a letter of intent, I can have one to you by tomorrow. Please let me know. Right? So what are you doing? You're taking the control of time out of their hands and you're putting it back into your hands. That's number one. You're now forcing the issue with them. Two, you used a presumptive close saying, seemed like you really like the property. Let's get you a letter of intent. Instead of them saying, I really like the property. I'd like a letter of intent. You're using the presumptive close, right? It's like with a girl across the bar. I saw you looking at me and I presume you want to go home? Are you ready? Right? That's the presumptive close, right? Let's go. That's the presumptive close. You're using that. And then number three, they're getting an email the same day from you. What do you think they think about from a client customer service perspective? Outstanding, right? I just saw the property with the guy this morning. He's already sent me an email this afternoon. My God, this guy is on the ball. Clearly he's focused, he's prepared, he wants to do business, he's serious. All right? That's how you go through and successfully show a space or a property or a building. Easy.